Hi there. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to work with fractions, particularly multiplying and dividing fractions. So lots of times teachers teach how to add and subtract fractions first. And again, I don't completely understand it because in my opinion, multiplying and dividing fractions is easier than adding and subtracting. And I'll show you why in the next video when I show you how to add and subtract fractions. But for right now, I'm just going to teach you how to multiply and divide them. So a fraction is basically when we have some number, let's say a number like 3, and we divide it by some other number like 8. Okay, so we can represent this as a decimal, right? This would be like, this equals, I think it's 0.375, right? We can write this as a percentage. This is like 37.5%. There's different ways of writing fractions, but fractions are kind of continually seen in math, and it's nice to know how to to be confident with working with fractions is kind of the main idea. So if we have a fraction like 3/8 and let's say we multiply it, right, we're multiplying it by a fraction like 1/2. How can we write this as one fraction? Because right now it's 2, but we can kind of merge them, and all we do is we take the top, we multiply it by the top, we take the bottom and we multiply it by the bottom, right? So what's 3 times 1, right? Well, 3 times 1 is just 3. What's 8 times 2? That's going to be 16. So we got 3/16 going on here. And this is going to be the single fraction. All right, what if we wanted to take 3/8 and divide it by 1/2? Same kind of idea. We can take 3 and divide it by 1. That's just 3. And we can take 8 and divide it by 2, and that's 4. So 3/8 divided by 1/2 is just 3/4. Okay, another way you can divide fractions is, let's say like this number wasn't 2. Let's say it was let's say this was 3, and you'd be like, well, how do I divide 8 by 3? Like, is that even possible? And what I would suggest doing, I'm just gonna change this back to 2 because that's what we were working with before. But instead of dividing by a fraction, we can also flip the second fraction and make this a multiplication sign. So what I mean is, um, if we have 3/8 and we divide by 1/2, this is the same as 3/8 times, it's called the reciprocal of this second fraction, so times 2/1. And this is super useful in kind of higher level math too. It's just a nice skill to know, right? So if you're dividing by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. So it's 3/8 times 2/1. This is like 3/8 just times 2, right? Because 2/1 is just 2, right? So if we multiply the top and the bottom together, right? 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 1 is 8. And we always want to see if we can reduce the fraction even more. So 6/8, we can divide the top and bottom by 2, right? So that's going to be 3/4. And notice how you get the same answer if you use that method that I just showed you. So you can either divide the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom, or you can, it's called there's kind of a phrase that I learned when I was younger. I was actually being tutored by a lady named Miss Franklin, and she told me dividing fractions is as easy as pi. You flip the second and multiply. So what that means is, instead of taking 3 and dividing it by 1 and taking 8 and dividing it by 2, all you do is, it's as easy as pi. You flip the second, okay, so you flip the second fraction and you multiply it. And that's exactly what we did. We made 1/2 2/1 and we multiplied it. Okay? So let's try another example here. Let's try another example. So what if we wanted to do, let's say 4/9 divided by, I don't know, 6/5. Okay, 6/5. So instead of saying, well, what's 4 divided by 6? What's 9 divided by 5? Those are ugly numbers. We don't want to deal with those. What we want to do is, well, it's as easy as pi. We flip the second and multiply. So we take these two numbers in the fraction, we flip them, Instead of dividing, we're just going to multiply. Okay, so now it's a bit easier. What's 4 times 5? That's 20. What's 9 times 6? That's 54. Can we reduce this? Yes, we can. Let's try dividing by 2 first. 20 over 2, that's going to give us 10. 54 over 2, going to give us 27, and it looks like that is going to be our reduced fraction. So instead of getting your calculator, dividing 4 by 6 and 9 by 5, trying to divide that and make it a fraction, it's way easier to flip the second and multiply. Okay, that's going to be super useful, I promise. So here are kind of two questions here we can work with. So Emily's out with her friends at a waffle bar. She orders 1.5 full waffles, but only eats 3/8 of what she ordered. And yeah, that is definitely a waste. Come on, Emily. I expected more from you. Write how many waffles she ate as a single fraction. Okay, so you can imagine this is Emily's order here. This is a whole waffle, right? And this is the other half. So she ordered 1.5 waffles, but she only ate 3/8 of this waffle and a half. So it's kind of hard to draw, but I kind of assume it's going to be, you know, 3/8 is just under half, so maybe it's going to be like out of all of this, this is kind of the portion that she ate. All right, so we're trying to figure out how can we represent that as an exact fraction. So if we take 1.5, right, and we're multiplying it by the 3/8 that she ate, it's going to give us some fraction. So she didn't eat 3/8 of a waffle. She ate 3/8 of the 1.5. And just the word of, in math, it comes up a lot. Anytime you see of, that just means times, right? 3/8 of 1.5, that's 3/8 times 1.5. Okay, so that's kind of helpful to know. So 1.5, we're working with fractions in this video. So let's just change that 1.5 to, that's the same as 3 halves, right? 3 halves is 1.5. So if we have 3 halves times 3 over 8, we have 3 times 3 over 2 times 8, so that's 9 over 16. My dog's barking in the background there. And that's going to be our reduced fraction there. So she ate 9/16 of one waffle. Okay, so if we had a waffle that was like this, and we kind of split it up into 16, I don't even know how you do that. This would be like 4, right? And then you could divide it further like this. Whoops, I'm not the best at drawing waffles divided into 16ths, so bear with me here. So if we kind of had 16 sections here, she would have eaten this one, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is kind of the proportion of the total waffles she would have eaten. It's not just one waffle, but this is kind of how you could look at it as like kind of a percentage or a ratio. She would have eaten 9/16 of one, like 9/16 of one full waffle. Okay, so her friends then order 3.5 waffles for the entire table. They figure that each person will only need half of 2/3 of one waffle. I worded this one kind of weird on purpose. Will it be possible to fulfill this distribution if exactly 3.5 waffles are ordered? Okay, lots of words. Let's kind of break it down. So 3.5, how can we write that as a fraction? Well, 3.5, if we multiply it, you know, kind of by 2 over 2, right? 2 over 2 is just 1. That's how I like to make decimals as fractions. So 3.5 times 2 is 7 over 2, right? So 3.5, we can write that as just 7 over 2. Each person will only need half of 2/3 of one waffle. So whenever, this is kind of like the total numbers of waffles we have, right? And we're going to divide it by the number of people that we have. Or sorry, we're going to take the number of waffles we have, and we're dividing it by how much each person gets. And that's going to give us the number of people, right? Like if you had 2 pizzas, or sorry, let's say you had 16 slices of pizza, and so this would be like 16 slices, and you divided it by each person getting 2 slices, that means that you could feed 8 people. So what the heck? We're figuring out what this number is going to be. This is like the number of people that we're going to get. Okay, so whatever the quotient is, that's the number of people that we can serve. Okay, so we have 7 halves, and we're dividing it by half of 2/3 of 1. So that word of comes up a lot. Half of 2/3 of 1. Okay, notice how every time I said of, I put a multiplication sign because that's what of means. Of means times. Always remember that, okay? So we have 7 halves divided by 1/2 times 2/3. We take 1 and multiply by 2, right? Tops and tops, bottoms by bottoms. So 2 over, what's 2 times 3? That's going to give us 6, right? And we still have this times 1 here, equals the number of people we can serve. Okay. What's 2 over 6 times 1? Well, we could make this 1 like 1 over 1, but anything times 1 is just itself. So this is just 7 halves divided by 2 over 6, and that's going to equal, right, our number of people that we can serve with the waffles. I'm kind of wanting some waffles myself right now, so this question might not have been the best way to articulate it. So now we have 7 halves. Remember, dividing fractions is as easy as pi. We flip the second and multiply. So we multiply, we flip the second. That's the number of people. I'm going to keep writing number of people to kind of drive that point home. All right, now it's just super easy. We're multiplying fractions. We've done this the entire video. So 7 times 6, right? That's 42 over 2 times 2, that is 4. So that's going to be the number of people. And this distribution will be appropriate if this is a whole number, right? Because if this number here is the number of people we're serving, we have to be able to serve a whole number of people. We can't serve like 4.5 people or 12.5 people. It has to be like, okay, we can take our quantity that we start with, right? 7 halves, we can divide it by how much each person gets, and we want that to be a whole number. Okay, so let's see if we can reduce this fraction. We can divide it by 2, I know that, because they're both even numbers, so 42 over 2 is 21. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so this is the number of people we can serve. Now can we divide that even more? Well, we can't divide it by 2, and we can't divide it by 3 because 2 is on the bottom. So it looks like this is our final reduced fraction. 21 over 2 as a decimal is 10.5. So if you started with 3.5 waffles, and each person was distributed a half of 2/3 of 1 waffle, you could serve 10.5 people. Okay, so the question was saying, will it be possible to fulfill this distribution if exactly 3.5 waffles are ordered? No, it won't, because you can't have half a person. At least at the waffle bars I've been to, I don't see half a person floating around. So maybe if this was 22 over 2, then this would become 11. And if this was 11 people, that would be fine. But this question is basically trying to show you that you want a whole number for the quotient there. So that's how you multiply and divide fractions. I'm not going to lie, it doesn't get much harder than that. Even though we only used 2 numbers for this example, I could have tagged on like times 3/4 divided by a half, right? Like you can kind of go on forever. It's just a matter of flipping the second and multiplying whenever you see this division symbol. So hopefully this video helped, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Look forward to it.